That way you can always come back and utilize all of the information that we go over here today. Plus, I'll be sending you an email with this recorded session linked in it, along with a lot of great information from our knowledge base that you can always access at any given time. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, now everybody should see that I have Revit open. I should have Revit 2020 up on your screen. You should be able to see that. And one of the first things you're going to notice as soon as you download and install Unifi is that now across the Revit ribbon, you have an extra tab, and it's the Unifi tab. Now, once you click on that Unifi tab, you're going to have a cube that you can hover over, and then you have some options that you can select. So the batch export, we'll be going over here in just a little bit, but the first two ones that you're going to concern yourself with is the initial launching of Unifi, which is your first cube, or you have the auto start, which is each and every single time you open up your design application, probably most likely Revit, you can have Unifi start up at that same time as well, put in your credentials and you're good to go. Now, Unifi is meant to work in tandem with Revit as well as your other design applications like Civil and AutoCAD, but it can also be utilized outside of having a design application open because you can house many types of different file types within Unifi. So if you have JPEGs or GIFs or PDFs or Word documents or Excel documents that you want to store in Unifi because they help support your day-to-day operations at your company, you can certainly house those in there and then utilize all the features and benefits that Unifi gives you with regards to versioning, making sure you have all the latest and greatest information and updated documentation in the system. So you can set to set Unifi to auto start each time, or for our purposes, I'm just going to click on the cube and click down here, and I've got Unifi up and ready to go. Now, a couple quick things that you're going to notice across the top of the screen when you're checking out Unifi is that you have the blue cube right here. You can always click on it and click on the About section to find out what version of Unifi you are on. So everybody should be working with version 3.9.5. That is the latest version of Unifi that is available. And the other thing is that you're also going to notice that across the top, you can see that Unifi automatically recognizes what design application I'm working within. So I'm working within Revit 2020, and I've got Revit 2020 open right here. Now, I can work with other design applications. So if I had different years of Revit, or if I had AutoCAD open, it's just going to tab across here to the left-hand side. So you can also check your permission level. Right now I'm logged in as a library admin, which means that I have just a little bit extra permission set than what a user does. So when you're looking across the left-hand side of the desktop application, you're going to notice some icons that are available here. So we have our initial search, we have browsing, we have saved searches, notifications, content requests, uploading content, the harvest project elements. You won't be able to see this because this is specific to a library admin or a full permission admin. And then you'll also have the Launch Unifi portal, as well as how to get support over here to the left-hand side. So a couple quick things when you're on your initial search. Each time as a regular user that you log into Unifi, and after you put your credentials in, your Unifi is going to open up to the search for content screen. And across right below the search bar, we definitely want to make sure that we're searching in the appropriate sources that we have permissions to, that your admin team has set up. We also want to make sure that we have the search fields selected appropriately. And we'll get into filters and how you can utilize those to refine your searches even further. So the first thing let's check out is our sources. Now, Unifi also partners with BIM Store and BIM Smith to give you manufacturer content. This may be something that your admin team has toggled on for you. And all of this manufacturer content comes directly from the manufacturer and is parametrically sound and ready to go for you to utilize. So once your admin team has toggled this on for you, if they do, you'll have access to that content and can utilize it in your projects. Now, the only caveat is that your admin team may want to make sure that everything that is in this manufacturer content does match your own company's naming standards and conventions. So for our purposes though, I'm going to deselect the channels, and you can see here that now my gray bar is switched from all sources to all libraries. And that's going to be really important for you as a user, because we want to make sure that we have access to all the libraries that our admin team has given us access to. So I can deselect all my company libraries, I can select individual ones, or I can select them all. And you can see this changes as I select those different libraries. If you try to search anything without having a library selected, Unifi is not going to find anything for you. All right, so now that we have all of our libraries selected, let's check and see how Unifi is initially searching. So Unifi, basically what it's doing is it's utilizing file name, family type name, family category, material class, and tags to find that content that you're trying to search initially in the search bar. Now, if you're familiar with and can and want to search by parameter name and value, you certainly can by toggling these areas on. But by default, they are toggled off. Our filters we're going to get into here in just a little bit, but this is an extra special set of filters that you can utilize to find content within Unifi as you begin your search. So let's start with something here. So in this search bar here, where I have my cursor, it works as an and statement. So you can type in multiple different values, but I'm going to start off with WIN and see what Unifi pulls in here for me. So Unifi, what it does is that it looks at your naming convention as well as the category, as well as all of these other fields that we already have toggled on to find the content that's most relevant to what your search term is. So if I start typing in WIN, you can see Unifi is expecting that I'm searching for a window, and I get 259 results. Now, if I were to type out the whole word window, I should still get 259 results, again, because it's still searching by that naming convention and those search fields that I have in the system. Now, if I have a second piece of criteria that I want to put in here, say I want to look at picture. Unifi is going to search for anything that's in the category, anything that's in the system that has window and picture in it. So when I search that, now you can see I'm all the way down to 20 results just by putting in these two fields. And one of the other things that you're going to notice as I back out picture is that you can see my results are 259 that are compatible with Revit 2020. So Unifi is always going to bring the content that's most relevant to the design application that you're working within. So you can see I've got Revit 2020 obviously open. Unifi is going to bring forward all of that content that's most relevant. But you can see I also have some other content that I could search as well. That could be other design application years, other file types, what have you. And you can always click on the blue hyperlink and search those different items and scroll down and find many different file types, or maybe different Revit years that the content is in here. So as you scroll through, again, you're going to be able to find all the different file types, whether you have JPEGs, if you have any of those other items that are in here as well. But if you only want to take a look at what's most relevant for the design application you're working within, just click on the blue hyperlink, and of course, it brings you back to those results. So as we continue to work through this a little bit more, you're going to notice in your preview screen here that I can immediately insert a piece of content directly from Unifi into my model that I have open here. And I can also read some information that's across the screen. Unifi tells you what library the content resides in, and it also gives you tags that have already been appropriated into the system by your admin team. Now, think of tags as extra special metadata that helps it and makes it easier for you to find. And it may also, this content may have been brought in from your file servers and folders in the folder. And any of those folders or nested folders that were copied over into Unifi, Unifi held those tags here so that you can find it, because you may be used to searching for different types of file folders in your file system or servers. And Unifi holds that. And you can see you can also create multiple different tags, whether it be by division number, by spec, by project, and you can add tags to the system as such. You can always right-click on any of this information here and get a little subset of information in this window. You can add a tag, you can download, you can open it in the family editor, you can request a rename or copy a URL, Copying the URL really makes it easy and efficient for your colleagues. In case they're not able to find a piece of content, you can actually copy this URL. And if they have an instance of Unifi, send it over to them via email or instant message, and they'll be able to open it up and insert it into their project. You can also do something that's called favoriting as well. You can see here that I have these blue hearts that have been put into the bottom left-hand corner of this content. And this is a personal favorite now that I can always go back and find for myself. If there's a piece of content that I use in a project each and every single time, I'll be able to favorite it. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. And I'll be able to find that easily within the system. I can also unfavorite if I'd like to. Now, if you have multiple pieces of content, I can simply click in the white space, click Shift, and then highlight as many pieces of content that I would like, right click, and I could batch insert all of this information into, or all of this content into my model if I wish. And if I want to clear it out, just click in the white space again. So there's a lot of things that you can do within this initial preview screen. But let's dive in a little bit deeper and take a look at the name as well. So utilizing this window here as my example, when you go into the details page, again, I can go ahead and immediately click to insert into my model from here just by clicking on the picture. And then I can also go over here to my Actions tab. Again, remember how I was talking about favoriting? So I've got my little heart here that I can uncheck or check to favorite. So if it's filled in, it means it's a favorite. I've also got actions that I can utilize. I can request an upload of a new revision. I can download. I can request an update. Again, copy that URL, or I could load immediately into Revit from this Action tab as well. I can open it in the Family Editor. So a lot of different features and functionalities for you to utilize within these action tabs, or if you right click on the preview screen. And again, with these tags are going to be, again, that extra special metadata that your admin team has put into the system to make it easier for you to find. And it's meant to be for everybody globally throughout the company to utilize. So when you're adding a tag, don't keep it as personal. Let's say, Dale's favorite window. There is a way to do that called through a save search if you want to make something a little bit more personal to you, where it's only independent and only you can see that. But tags definitely should follow your naming standards and conventions if you're going to tag a particular piece of content. Now I can start typing in window, and you can see the tags that have already been listed in the system, and I can add any of these tags simply by clicking on them, or if I have an independent one that I want to add, I can simply just type in the name and click the plus sign. And now I've added a tag to this particular piece of content. And it's also very simple to remove as well. I can right click and remove that tag. And again, any of the content that has that tag is going to pull into the system, and you can search by that as well. Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the screen here with our family types and our family history. You can see that Unifi, if you have multiple different family types, is going to list it down here to the left-hand side for a particular window, so different sizes and what have you. You can select and then insert from there. And you also have all of that, the parameter values and the parameter names that are over here in this area here. So if I wanted to search by visual light transmittance or thermal resistance, I could search by any of these values simply by clicking to copy, and I could send that over to my friend or my colleague, and I can search by it in the standard search if I wished. Now here's something that your admin team has found with Unifi, which is going to be very beneficial as well. And that's the file history. Now you can see this particular piece of content came in with a base file of 2014. But what Unifi does is it automatically takes that content and upconverts it for each year moving forward from 2018 all the way to 2023. So it saves a lot of time, makes it more efficient, saving money, because you don't have to go back in and use your resources or your time to make that content available to be used in each year of Revit moving forward. Unifi automatically processes that in the cloud and then makes sure that it's available for you to utilize in any of these design years. And again, as it continues to move forward, as a new year of Revit is released next year, we'll have full connectivity with Revit 2024, and it'll continue to move forward from there. So a lot of great items just to look at within the preview screen as well. Now, as I go back, and we're back to our 259 results, Unifi is always going to remember your last search result anyway, too. So even if I go into some of these other areas and then come back, Unifi is going to remember what I searched last. So you don't have to go back in and try to think about, oh, what did I search to get to that content? It'll remember it. A couple other quick things for you to take a peek at, which are the filters. Now, if I click on filters, you can see here, I can search by an additional search bar over here in my filters section. Now, this works as an or statement. So our main search bar works as an and, so it'd be window, and my example that I had was picture. Or I could come into my filters section and utilize this search bar and utilize it as an or statement. So if I wanted to look for sliding, and we'll say wood, I could search by that term. Again, I can also search by those Revit parameters if I wanted to, adding and clearing them out. I can search by star rating. You can see that this particular piece of content has a rating system that's involved with it as well. So if you start rating your content within Unifi, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, that lets your admin team know exactly what content is working for you and what you're utilizing most within your projects. And then of course, they can also run reports off of that so they can purge out other content that maybe isn't as good or maybe has some issues with it. And then they can purge that out and always make sure that the most relevant content is in the system for you. And I could also search by those favorites here too. So if I were to check this box, all of the content, if I wanted to, with these particular information that I put in this search bar, or if I only want to search everything that is favorited, I could search by that as well. So anything that has been favorited for me personally, that has a heart filled in, I would be able to search by that. Now you can see I have other categories here that I can search by. I've got family categories. I've got file types that I can search by. I can click on any of the pencils and the drop downs and select, or I can start typing them in here as well. So if I wanted to search by a Revit loadable family, I certainly could. And if I do, then I can also filter it down by unit of measure. So if I have Imperial windows that I want to check and I don't want to search and I don't want any of the metric windows to pop up, I can do so. I could also include or exclude tags as I see fit as well. If I'm getting data that's coming in that isn't necessary for what I'm looking for, say a window, since it can have multiple tags to it, continues to pop in that's from a particular project that I don't need to have access to or don't want to see, I can exclude that particular tag from my search field as well. Or I can include tags as I see fit. So since we know we're also searching for a wood window, I can start typing it in. And I can select wood windows if I wanted here as well. And I can simply also take it out simply by hovering over the particular tag, and I can click the X button as well. So it makes it really simple for you to start utilizing all the different areas and aspects of the tags that are in the system. So if I go back to that, and now that I have all of my criteria that's set in here, I can click apply. And now that I've applied all of the different filters within the system here, you can see now that I'm down to the 22 best results for that. And I can also continue to add in additional information up here in my and statement if I wanted to. And if there was anything that popped up in there that was relevant for 2020, it would show up, or I could click that again. Or if I need to adjust any of this information that's over here, I can certainly do that as well. So it makes it really simple for me to filter down and get to all the information that's best for me. Now you can see we went from about 3,000 results down to about 259 down to 22 through these filters. And we can also search by tags up in our main search bar as well by clicking the left bracket next to the P button on my keyboard. So if I wanted to start searching in for particular items in here, I certainly could. I could search my wood windows and click search. And now I can clear out my filters. And if I click search again on there, I still get the 22 best results that are based off of that tag that I have here for wood windows. All right. So now as I type in my information that I had in here again, this would be a good spot to stop and see if anybody has any questions. Pretty straightforward with the search. Right. Okay, there are a couple other different ways that you can search in Unifi as well. Now, one of the other ways that you can search in Unifi is by utilizing the browse content. And I'm going to get into that here in just a second. So now that I've applied all of my filters back into the system, let's go ahead and take a look and see how easy it is to insert into a project. So any of this content that I have over here to the left-hand side, I can click on that picture. Unifi is going to go through a process here. I'm going to make sure I clear out all of my areas with Revit. And now you can see with any of this, with this content, I can immediately insert it into the appropriate area of my model. So whether I need to add this to the kitchen, or if I need to add it to the living dining room, or if I wanted to come over here and add it to the bedroom, I certainly could. And you can see here that Unifi also, it brings up into your Revit project, and you can also find it over here in your project browser as well. So once you insert that particular piece of content into that area that you would like to, you will always have it in your model for utilization. Now, say I messed up and I selected the wrong one, all I have to do is click escape, or I can cancel out of it and then find the best window that's going to work for me to put it into the model that I need to work with. All right. So the next thing is browsing for content. Now you may be more familiar with clicking on this browse feature here, and you can go through any of the libraries that you have been given access to, and we're going to select the architecture. Now you can see Unifi breaks down all of the content that is available to you by Revit category, and it's going to be alphabetical. And it's also going to have alphabetically stored all those different file types that Unifi has to offer that you can load up into it. So you can see I've got Dynamo scripts, I've got drawings, I've got DGNs, I have GIFs, I have all these different types of information. I got PNGs that are within here. And you can also see per a Revit category, I do have windows in here. So I can always get to whatever the Revit category is for these windows. Now, again, we already saw that there are other windows that are in other categories or maybe have different tags to them as well. But these are going to be the ones that Revit has been uploaded with that Revit category of windows. So again, within about 3 clicks, so click once, click twice, click 3 times, I've gotten to the content that's most available to me or ready for me to utilize within the system. All right, now going back to my example of these 22 results, remember, I just went through that area here about the different way that you can search, but Unifi remembered exactly everything that I had here that I had already searched up before. You can see all my filters are in place, they've already been applied, and it's ready to go. Now, if I want to filter down further, I certainly can too. So if I wanted to put projecting and glass in here and adjust this even further, now I've gotten down from the 22 results down to the 6 best results that are going to be available for me to utilize in my project. So you probably thinking to yourself, okay, I've gone through all the effort of putting in all these different filters, gone through the effort of narrowing this search result all the way down. How am I ever going to remember that? Well, Unifi makes it easy for you because you can create what's called a saved search. And as a user, you're going to have saved searches that you can create personally for you individually. So nobody else will be able to see the search that you put together. And this would be more appropriate for you to start utilizing maybe your more personal naming convention for this particular saved search. Now your admin team has already gone through and has created company saved searches, which means that they're global searches. So everybody can utilize them. And they've already gone through the effort of creating company saved searches based on commonalities and common pieces of content that you utilize on a day-to-day basis in your models, in your projects that you'll have access to and can get to very quickly and easily. So with the Save Search I'm creating here, which is a personal Save Search, I'm going to go ahead and click on this disk icon right here. I can enter in any sort of Save Search name. So I'm just going to type in my name. We'll put Dale Test. We'll put today's date. And now you can also select a group. I can create a group from scratch if I want to, or I can actually select groups that I've already created. So I'm going to go ahead and select my test. I can double check the libraries that I'm accessing this content from. I can double check my search fields. I can double check my filters and see if there's anything that needs to be in there. I can change the relevancy. So if I wanted to add in some star ratings, that show the content in ascending or descending order or alphabetically, I certainly can. And then I can also select an icon from this area here, just simply by clicking on the blue square. And I can find something that most resembles a window to me. I'm going to go ahead and use that icon, or I can always change it up. And if I wanted to utilize a letter, I certainly could for Windows, or I could use any of these other icons that I saw fit. Now, once I've typed in this basic information here, I can click the preview. And now I can see, okay, everything looks good. I've got my 6 results. I can change my filters if I need to. And then once I've made my save search, I can click save. Unifi is going to tell you that it's saved with a green bar. And now when I go back to this disk icon right here and save searches, you can see, like I was talking about earlier, company save searches, again, which can be created for brand new projects and having all the content that you need for a brand new project, because you can also house RTEs or full project files in here. So when you begin a new project, you could simply insert from there and off to the races. Or I could click on common doors or what have you that I would need, or even windows, common windows that I have over here. And you can see this company save search has already filtered it down from that Revit category of about 212 down to 86, because these are most common for your work environment. I can also take a look at my save searches. So again, company save searches, everybody can see. My save searches, that's for you individually. I can click on my test and I can see all the different tests that I have brought in here before. I can always go back and edit or duplicate to refine down further if I want to, or I can delete a previous save search. And then I can always go back and click my save search here and get to the 6 results that are most relevant to me. So again, within 3 clicks, you can get to content that is relevant, that you're going to be able to use consistently in your projects. Alrighty. So before I go any further, any questions on the 3 main ways to find content in Unifi?
I feel like there should be a quiz for this.
Gotcha. Well, I've got your back on that one too. So once everybody learns Unifi a little bit more, we do have a certification that you can go through if you'd like to. So whenever everybody feels ready that they're ready to go, you can go through the certification path, and it's 100% free. So you can take it as many times as necessary. All right. So now that we've gone through the 3 main ways of searching within Unifi, hopefully you'll be able to utilize this, get to that content quicker than you ever have before, saving you time, effort, and money, and be able to insert that content into your projects and continue to hit all of your deadlines and your goals from there. There are a couple other pieces to go over within Unifi. And the next piece that we're going to kind of talk about here is getting content into the system. Now, Nate, or before I go any further on this, Nate, did you want me to go over the 2 main ways to bring content in, or is that still just going to be an admin functionality?
We can go through it, and then we potentially will add additional people who can add content, so that'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so a couple different ways for you to get content into the system. First is you have the Upload Content Cloud icon that's right here with a little up arrow. Once you click on that, Unifi is going to open up an area for you to bring content in. Now, the easiest way for you to get content into Unifi from your desktop or your servers is to go ahead and open up your file folders that you have. Maybe you have, Windows Explorer, what have you, and you have content that you want to bring in. Now, again, like I was talking about with the tagging structure that Unifi utilizes, I'm going to bring in this bowling content. I'm going to bring in this church content here. And Unifi, what it does is it's going to let you know the file type that you're bringing in. It's going to let you know if it already exists in the repository. And if it does, it's not going to overwrite anything. But what it does do is create a new revision of that particular piece of content. You're going to see the name. Now, Unifi doesn't specifically tell you that it's holding these file folder names, bowling content, church content, but it is in the background holding those folders and nested folders in a tag status. Now I can add additional tags here if I wanted to, but you can see here, Unifi isn't going to let me upload anything until I select a library. And this is very important for users as well. A user who is uploading content into the system, that content is going to go into a pending status for your admin team to approve or reject. So even if you do request content to go into a specific folder, again, it's going to go into a pending status for your admin team to approve or reject. You won't be able to search it, find it, see it until they do so. And then they'll also be able to let you know the reasons why if it is rejected. But you can always request what folder or what library you would like the content to reside in. So I'm just going to go ahead and say my unapproved just for our purposes here. And then when I'm ready, I can simply go over here. If I want to create new revisions of all this content, I certainly can. Or if I notice some things in here that have already been duplicated in the system, and I don't want to have another revision in here, I can simply click the X button on individual pieces, or I can clear it all out. Now, if all the content is the same, and we do recommend bringing in groups of similar content into Unifi, that way your tags are all relevant for that particular content. Obviously, I brought in 2 different types of content, a bowling content or church content, and it's probably not all going to be tagged the same way. But if you do bring in groups of content, make sure they're all relevant and they should all have the same tagging together, because you'll be going to be adding tags in groups. And again, I can start typing in any of that information if I want to tag it, all with the same thing. I can just by clicking the plus sign. I can add brand new tag names simply by typing in the bar. Or again, I can right click and remove the tag directly from here. And again, I can always click on the plus sign here and you can see the base year of the content coming in, and Unifi automatically, once upon upload, is going to bring it into the cloud and process it and make it available for Revit 2018 all the way through 2023. All right. So since this all already resides in the system, then I'm just going to go ahead and upload it just for our purposes here in my unapproved library. We'll upload it just to show I can see that Unifi is taking the content up into the cloud, and it's going to have it processed and ready to go, depending on file size. This will take just a few seconds. And then once it's done, I can upload more files, or I can click the done uploading. And you can see within the folder that I brought this particular content in, I don't have permissions to, and I've got a batch that's right here that's in pending status. And again, just like I said, this is going to now await on my admin team to approve or deny if they want this content to come back into the system. And again, that's under the notification screens here. These are the 4 batch files that I brought in. It's in pending status, and I can always search what's been approved, what's been rejected, and what's in pending simply by clicking on the status and selecting what's most relevant for what I want to see. Always make sure here too that the end date, sometimes Unifi, when you were uploading for the first time, depending on what time zone you're in, it can get, sometimes it can be 1 day behind. So always make sure that you're always working with your calendar date and refresh here. That way you can see all those libraries and when they come in. Now there is a second way for you to bring content into the system, pretty simple as well. And this is the preferred method for you to bring all other file types out of a project and into Unifi. And that's through utilizing your Revit Ribbon Unifi tab, clicking on the cube, and going over to Batch Export. Now, once I click on Batch Export, You can see here, Unifi brings open a nice window for me. I can search elements that are within my project that I want to bring in, or I can click any of these drop-down areas. So you can see I've got tags, families, system types, views, schedules, materials, fill patterns, sheets. Any of this information I can bring in to Unifi at a moment's notice. Now, we do recommend when you bring in content into Unifi that you keep it to about 200 to 250 files or less than 1 gigabyte. Obviously, you could be working from a home network, business network over VPN. There could be extreme amounts of network traffic. Any of those things can really could disrupt how Unifi brings in that information. So again, try to keep the files less than 1 gigabyte and around 200 to 250, smaller chunks. Now, since that you can see here, I have about 318 different pieces of material. Probably not going to want to bring that all in, but say I want to bring in asphalt, I can select different sections here if I'd like to. And then once I'm ready, I can click the export button. Unifi then processes it, and you can see that you've got an export progress that's going on. And as soon as it gets it ready, then you can see it brings it right in here into the system. And another thing, we always recommend that you keep Unifi and Revit running on the same screen. We've been working with Autodesk and Revit for quite some time now on this, but if the two programs are on separate screens, sometimes Revit will time out. So you could be sitting there waiting on content to upload or insert or what have you, and you may find out that it seems to be in a waiting or spinning circle of death, if you will. So make sure that both programs are working on the same screen together. That'll help alleviate a lot of any sort of potential issue down the road. And again, with that content that I just brought out of that project into here, I can double check my base file. Unifi brings it in as that base file of 2020, upconverts it. I can see the different formats here. I can select the library that it goes into. I've got my unapproved. I can tag it accordingly if I wanted to. If I wanted to put in materials, I could for that. And then once I'm ready, upload. And again, then I can go back to uploading more files, utilizing batch export out of my system in here. Or if I'm complete, then I can go ahead and click the done uploading once it is finished. Or I can even do it beforehand as well, and it'll still continue to upload, and you'll still have the blue bar down below. And now you can see I have these two batch files that are pending coming into the system. And again, all of this is going to go into a pending status until my admin team approves or denies it. All right, any questions on the two main ways to bring content into Unifi? Okay, I'm going to take silence as gold and continue moving on. So the next piece that's going to be most important for you as a user is the content request. Now, content request is a really handy tool that's in this app that's built in so that you can communicate back and forth with your admin team effectively and efficiently. And you don't have to go to other methods that can get lost in the shuffle. Say, using an instant message where somebody can push that notification out of the way, or an email that gets lost among, hundreds of other emails that you deal with in a given basis. Or, coming up to the admin team and asking him to do it, and then potentially it being forgotten because everybody's so busy. So within the app, you can utilize a content request. You can create one from scratch utilizing this little pen and paper. You can type in all the information and select libraries, put in information here, and drag in the content that you would like to have brought into a specific folder. Or the other thing you can do is, if you're in content that is already loaded into Unifi, and you notice that something just isn't quite right with this particular piece of content, you can go ahead and click the Actions button, and you can do something which is called Request Update. So say you found something that was off with parameter names, values, description, the name, what have you. You can click the Request Update, and you can start typing in some information. Now, Unifi already pre-populates a lot of this information in here, especially if you utilize this directly how I just showed you. But you can pop in additional information like project number, project name. You've got due dates that you can select. Say I need this really quick. Say I need it by tomorrow because I've got a deadline that I have to hit. So I can select the priority as high. You can already see the library that this content resides in, and you want it to be in this library. You can select the file type. Remember how I talked about Unifi being content agnostic, meaning you can house any type of file type in it, but you can also select Autodesk Revit, which is already pre-selected for you. You can see the minimum Revit year for that is 2018, but if I only need it for 2020, I can certainly make that the minimum year, and then Unifi would upconvert it from there, or it would take it from 2018 and make it available all the way through there once all the changes have been made. I can select whether I need imperial or metric data. I can select different types of standards. So usually it's normal, but if you do have special standards, you can click on special and type in the information in the box here. This, though, is going to be the most important area for you to put in all of that valuable information that your admin team needs to make a decision about this content. So don't be like me. Don't just put needs updating. I can guarantee that's going to come back to you in a boomerang. They're probably going to have you come back and make some updates to that. So just for our purposes here, though, be as specific as you can about the reason why this content needs to be updated. And you can actually bring in additional design documents and applications as well. So if you have sketches or drawings or manufacturer cut sheets, you can drag and drop that information in here to help support your efforts behind the reason why this needs to be updated. And then once you're ready to go, your admin team may select different groups of people that have a little bit extra permission than the standard end user that they want to have help them edit, approve, deny content. So they may have you check a group, but they'll come back to you and let you know about that. But admin teams can have special groups of people that will receive these notifications as well to help them work on content. And then once you're ready and you filled out all the information, we can create the content request. Now we can create another one from scratch, or we can go to our view notifications and see what's happening here. So you see now, you can see this content that I just did the content request on is now in a pending status. I can always check and see what's complete or rejected, and I can double click on it. Now my admin team, what they'll be able to do, you're not going to be able to do it, but they'll be able to click on this little drop down here and change the status of it from pending to in progress. And then once they do that, you as the requester will see the status change here. So then you can feel confident that, hey, the admin team is working on it. What your admin team is going to go through is that they're going to click on this particular piece of content. They're going to double check all of that information. They're going to look at what you've dropped in here, and they're going to take a look at the description on this. So remember how I said this could potentially boomerang? Well, within the app, you can communicate back and forth with your admin team and the requester of this content. So as an admin, I can put need more information, if I can spell today, and then I can add a comment. And what happens there is now that the admin team has put in a comment in app, you're going to be able to click on your content request, just as I showed you before, and see these different comments that are going back and forth between you and the admin team. And you're also going to receive an email notification that you have a new comment that has come in from your admin as well, requesting more information from you. And you can type back to them, hey, all good, on its way. And you can continue this conversation back and forth, letting them know and giving them the information they need and communicating back and forth in app. And then lastly, as a user, you can, if you found out that nothing was wrong with this content, or maybe you made an error, you can always come up here to the cancel the request and cancel the request, or your admin team is going to say that, content is good, move forward. So you can, and they'll send you that comment letting you know that it's fine, and then they'll come up in here and then they will reject that request. And then once that's done and you click yes, you can see it clears out immediately from my request file. I can always go back and search it. You can see this wood projecting here was rejected for one reason or another. And I can go back in and double check and see why it was rejected through the comments that are down here, or just take a look at the email notifications I got as well. All right, so any questions about content requests, how to utilize that, how to communicate back and forth with your team members?
Are we we trying to cut out at 5? I feel we haven't really addressed the real meat and potatoes of how we use it and what we're going to be doing with software.
We can do that in a subsequent one.
Sure.
So somebody's going to be reviewing our requests if we do this. I mean,
Yeah, we'll have, so Nate's been spearheading this, but we'll have, assign, certain people to, be the gatekeepers.
Definitely.
I think we need to see how the software plays out in a typical workflow action, because I think we're all getting a little lost in this process.
Well, I mean, the intent is what he had basically shown you right now is, yeah, he showed you a family with a specific family to look up and to insert into the file, but the same thing would apply to details or anything. So this is, it's not just families that you're looking for. It's, oh, I need to find this detail. You would look for it the same way that he just did, looking for a family. Same location, same everything. You have a detail that you want to include in future projects, it would be uploaded the same way. So I'm not really sure I fully understand what your question is regarding how it works.
Well, I mean, it's not a question. It's just I think we need, I think we need to see it in action. Like, so we grab stuff, we start dropping it in. How do we actually use it, on a day-to-day basis? I mean, no offense to anybody, but we need to see how this works. I mean, we're going into we're going under the hood, I think, a little bit too much on this one right now. And
what if it is a window? You get a window into your Revit?
Yeah, I still am not quite sure why it's unclear as to how you work with it. It's downloaded into your Revit, and if you need to look for, so for ours, for now, obviously it's in process, but say you need to look for a detail. You have a detail you want to find that we currently have in our library. You open Unifi, you type in the search field what that detail is you want to look for, and then you click on that detail, it inserts it into your project. So that's how, I mean, that's the workflow. I don't understand why that's confusing.
Is everyone fully on board with that here?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the question I have. Like many times, right? You insert a detail into your project that's in your project, but not a detail. I'm sorry. You insert a family, so you want to edit that family. You open the family, you edit the family. If you're not copying it over into your project folder, you may be editing the library family, right? So how does this thing?
Once you've loaded a family into Revit, then that family may not necessarily be saved anywhere on the server, but it's specifically a family located in the Revit project. So it's not saving back to Unifi, it's not saving back to anywhere. So if you edit it and want to save it somewhere, you can save it on your own projects folder for that.
So we don't need to be concerned that we're changing company, library, families.
Yeah, no. For the most part, nobody has the ability to change or edit any content on Unifi unless they're an admin. For the most part, right now, everybody's just set to be able to download the information is all.
So it's going from our libraries up into the Unified Cloud and then back into the project. It's not just searching our library. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, so basically, if I may, any of that content that was resident on your file servers or folders your admin team has brought into Unifi, because you're keeping Unifi as your single source of truth. Think of it that way, as the end all be all of the content that you have available to you as users to utilize in your different projects. If any sort of edits or anything need to be made with that particular piece of content, you've inserted it and you need to make some changes, you can always utilize Open in Family Editor. You can make some additional changes to that item and then request it be uploaded back up into the system. And again, it would just go back through the approval process for your team. And because you're taking advantage of all of the easy and findability of the content, and you're also taking advantage of all the revisions and the versioning that Unifi automatically does for you, taking a lot of weight and effort off of you and your admin team.
Yeah, so in general, I mean, there's a lot that still has to be done on our end to get our library up to speed, and that has been the case for quite a while. But basically, the intent is that Unifi is going to replace the folder system on the server. So every time you're going to go search for something, you're going to go to Unifi. You're not going to go to a folder on the N drive to look for a family, or to go find a different project somewhere else that has the detail that you want. You're going to look for it on Unifi first. So the intent is to make everything streamlined through this, but obviously that's going to take time. That's going to take time to get it up to speed. If anybody who is Revit savvy would like to help with that effort, I am happy to include you, because I don't have the time to do it all myself. So anybody that is willing to help get this up and running faster, by all means, let me know, and then we can get it going for everybody. But currently, just to be upfront, we pretty much have details from previous projects that we've currently uploaded to Unifi, and that's it. We don't have anything else really to show for it at the moment. So eventually it will be the tool we need it to be, but and we do have some options for downloading Autodesk content, and like you said, we can set up like a couple of the spots, like maybe BIM Store or BIM Smith, excuse me, or whatever. But we can talk about that a little bit more as an office. But in general, this is meant to be a tool to hopefully just streamline this process, so that we're not all saying, what folder do I go to find this, or what project do I go to find this, which has been pretty much the standard so far for our office, because that's what we have. So we're hoping to make this easier. But
this doesn't really replace anything in Revit per se. It really replaces Windows Explorer is the big thing. Anyway, what I've been put it down, right? I mean, but that's the problem that we've been having, right? Is that, you know, one of the things that I've kind of been talking in our standards meeting about prioritizing is when people start with us on day one, you know, just trying to make it as easy a transition as possible. And so any new employee who knows how to do a Google search, you know, would be able to use this as opposed to searching our online or you know, our server for that content.
Or going online.
Yeah, because that's the other thing people have done, is they've just downloaded stuff that just ends up making a mess in our files.
yeah.
I feel seen and
So,
heard.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
So Dale, sorry, just because, sorry, this is Christopher, and I'm basically managing the standards, and so I know why we're doing this. I just want to make it really clear for the rest of the office, but so details and managing the details is the number one priority of why we're going to Unifi. And can you just show what happens when we start inserting a detail from the Unifi library into a project, like onto a sheet or whatever? I mean, I just need the team to see like one pass at how this workflow happens.
Okay. So yeah. So basically, you've got your detail items. Like, I'm just going to go ahead.
If you could do one of the drafting views, that would be.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like a full-blown detail, not a detailed element.
Okay. Yeah. So anytime that you load in any of your drafting views, whether that comes in from a project that you bring in or that you've already brought over from your file server, any of your drafting views or sheets or what have you, you're going to be able to hover over and take a look at. Of course, make sure that it has the information that you've or want for that particular item. And then once you're ready to utilize it, you can click on the name. You've got your actions so that you can upload a new revision. You can load it into Revit. You can look at any of the items there. If I load it into Revit from here, what happens is that it opens up a new folder here so that you can, or a new section here on Unifi, and then you can pull in and utilize any of those details that you need from there. And then if there's any changes that need to be made from there, obviously, if you make any changes or what have you, then you can certainly then bring that back up into Unifi through the upload family or the batch export from there.
So as soon as you click on it, it will open a window with that detail. So you're not necessarily searching for that detail. So then on the top left in the properties, if you're curious about where to find it, then that will give you some information as to what section under the project browser to look for it. So, I mean, it hopefully will be, will work as seamlessly as it seems right now.
That's partially what I was getting at. So we're not just placing stuff onto a sheet in Revit. I mean, this is just for all of us. So, we're not placing stuff directly onto a sheet. We're loading, similar to the families, we're loading it into the project, and then we're gonna, maybe we tweak it a little bit with, oversight or understanding, and then we actually place it on the sheet, and that's fine. And then we can. So Dale, what happens if the detail that I think it's similar to the families, but we've started to tweak that detail that we downloaded off of Unifi, and then it's just the same process. We propose or we petition that it gets uploaded.
Yeah, if you make any. If you make any changes to it at all, that because it needs to be, updated for whatever your project or whatever, then again, you would definitely utilize either the upload family or the batch export to bring it back up into the cloud because you've made changes to it. The naming convention of it stays the same, then that once your admin team approves it, it'll have those updates in it. Or you can also propose that different name change that's on there so that you could have the two separate details available to you.
Dale, I have a question. If we've got, let's say, a client who we do repeat work for, they have their preferences. And so you showed us how you can kind of save your own personal, you can put your blue heart on the things that you like and save your personal list. Is there a way to do something similar for project where we might have like specific door families that we know this one client is going to always prefer? And a certain countertop, and then we can assemble those various families and details and kind of create a project where all of those come in, and then 2 years later when we do their next project, we just go right to that same library, and we've already got all of those already kind of collated and ready to go.
Definitely. Yeah, you can go through their save
project. So we've got a developer who always wants, fiberglass doors and, aluminum windows or whatever.
And then you could definitely, like, if you have that brand new project that you created, you could save it on your desktop, and then you could load it back. You could load it into Unifi and tag it with that project name, like I was talking about here, where you could add a tag that's specific to it, because we can house RTEs, RTFs that are in the system, full projects within there. Just to show you here, you can browse the projects that are resident in Unifi. You can see all these different projects. I've got, a Park Lanes project that's in here, which is one of my bowling centers that I can house in there. And then if I want to come back to it 2 years later, because it already has a lot of those elements, I could bring that in, house it in here if I wanted to. Or again, like I was showing you with the company saved searches, if I have a new project or any sort of specific project base that's on here, I could set up a company saved search that has all of that information, and then I could simply just click on it and I'm good to go and drop it back into a brand new model or project within Revit.
And we could also create separate libraries as well,
Mhm.
right, with that type of name, so.
Exactly.
If we have a specific client, then we can associate certain details or whatever to that library. So then, rather than doing a search for through the whole section, you're just searching under that client's library, if you wanted to go that route. So
Yeah.
there's some ability to do that.
Yeah,
Are you able to
definitely.
assign a similar type of a gatekeeper where if it's, say, by project, then, the PM would be able to, control what comes in and out?
Yeah.
Of that project's library?
Yep, you can set the different permission sets for different people that are in the system. So like Nate was talking about with the different libraries, you can see that I have libraries that are set up here by project specific. I can also set, as we were talking about, if you're a full permission admin, obviously, you'll be able to set permissions for different people or even different groups of people to have access to that particular content, or who have access to those projects and who can make those changes or edits.
But if Nate's an admin, I want to keep him out of my project.
Mhm.
He might have access to the whole company, but I might want to keep him out of just my project.
Sure. Yeah, you can set
Okay.
permissions so they don't ever have access to that.
Uh-huh. Okay, all right. I don't trust that guy.
Yeah, and that's where, quite honestly, too, like when you set up the permissions in the system, or when your admin does, that's where they can set individually or with groups of people in here. So I've got specific groups of people, or I've got specific people that I can add to a library and give them access to it. So I can set that up by people who have access, or I can set it up by people who are just administrators who have access. And that's kind of where maybe sometimes an undeveloped library or unapproved library, like all of you users, your admin team may create an unapproved library where they don't want any of the users to have access to it because they're making changes and updates to the content, and they'll release it to the wild. And you can set up permissions like that within Unifi for specific projects if you wish. Okay. Awesome. Well, I have one other thing to go over. Obviously, the favorites, as you saw that were over here, you can always go into your browse, my favorites, and you can search any of the content that has that blue little heart icon on it. And once you can always sort it by those different criteria here: star ratings, alphabetically, date created or modified. And then lastly, support. So I wanted to make sure that obviously reach out to your admin team first if you do have any questions. But if you need additional help or what have you, I'm always here to assist. We do have, through our chat bubble, when you click on it, you get the tiles that show up across the screen here. You can always email our support. We have a great support team that will help answer questions. If Unifi doesn't seem to be working as expected, you can always utilize report a bug and report that information. You can request a feature. So if there's something that you feel like Unifi could do to make your life easier, or you'd like to see it, or do something, or a wish list, if you will, you can request a feature. But one of the most important things that I would really like to make sure that you and your team do is utilize the training resources tab. Make sure that you click on that and you bookmark this on your web browser, because within Unifi, we have all of the topics that we went over today and more listed in these 9 different tiles. Or you can utilize, say, like a Google search and start searching for information. So if you wanted to learn more about saved searches, you could click on that. Unifi breaks this down with screenshots and written explanations on how to do everything. Plus, you can also watch a YouTube video on that as well. So it makes it very simple for you to find information. And again, at the conclusion of today's phone call, I'm also going to be sending you today's recording. I'm also going to be sending you links to all of the information that we talked about today that directs you direct to our knowledge base. And you can always utilize me or your admin team if you have any additional questions, because I'm always here to help and support and make sure your journey is successful with Unifi. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I know that we went about a few minutes over, and I really want to say thanks so much for hanging out.